cup at a time. Yeah, this is tea time. Yeah, making a difference. One cup at a time. So be sure to grab your tea, grab a seat, and tune in to Miss Liz. Tea time, making a difference. One cup at a time. Tea time, yeah. Tea time, time, time.
Welcome everybody to Tea Time with Miss Liz. That's right, it's afternoon tea, and Miss Liz is here to spill another TEA with you. And I have the incredible MarBeth Dunn in the house. We're going to spill a double tea today. That's how it works. My guests always surprise me, and I always like throwing in those extra special surprises at the end when we start the show. So we're going to get the disclaimer out there. We're going to get the bio out there, but we're going to get you over to Miss Liz's YouTube channel. We're going to get you to ring that little doorbell, and you can watch these tea times at any time. Share them with loved ones. Share them with people that you know that it might resonate with, or who's looking for that message today, because that's what these teas are all about, is to teach educational awareness and to spread the love. So let's get started, and then we'll get MarBeth in here, and we'll spill a double dipping tea today. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz myself is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment, please grant StreamYard permission to see your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that the content brought forward for any Tea Time show hosted by myself, Miss Liz, is always brought forward in good faith. However, it may bring forward dialogues and opinions that are not representative of my platform. The facts and information are perceived to be accurate at the giving time of airing. All Tea Time guests and audience participants are responsible for using their good judgment and taking any action that may relate to the discussion. The content brought forward may include discussions for some where they may be emotionally at risk. It is significant to know that the show is engaging in discussion forums only to offer and inspire awareness and connection, and is not providing therapeutical advice. If you have any questions about the disclaimer or the panel's discussion, you may freely contact me, Miss Liz, through my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com. Moving forward, should you choose to voluntarily participate in today's show in any aspect, I myself, Miss Liz, welcomes you. And should you decide that the show is not made for you at this time, I respect those wishes, and we'll see you at a later show at a later date and time. Again, all Tea Time shows are hosted on Thursday, 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you see a Tea Time that is not on a Thursday, it's a surprise Tea Time, or it's a special Tea Time that is being hosted on a Monday or Tuesday. So now a little bit on my guest. She's patiently waiting in the back, and I got to join her live a little earlier, so I am really excited to have her here today with us. MarBeth Dunn is a master energy intuitive and an international speaker on the topics of world peace, inner peace, and meditation. A spiritual teacher for over 35 years. MarBeth mentors highly sensitive, empathic women to manage your energy and release stress. MarBeth Dunn is a founder and director of 10 Million for World Peace Industry. According to MarketWatch, renowned meditation experts, MarBeth Dunn, with her nearly 40 years of experience teaching meditation, peace, and miracles, has demonstrated the power of meditation and unified consciousness to reduce violence in many parts of the globe. MarBeth is an award-winning creator of the World Miracle Peace Experiment, which correlates with a 20% drop in the Middle East violence in 2018. Her inspiring work has been featured on Fox, NBC, CBS, and the CW. For more on MarBeth, go to Miss Liz's Facebook page and check out the full bio. There's some goodies there as well for you, which we'll be talking about. So let me get MarBeth in here, and then we can spill some tea, because today's tea is going to be transformational energy activation, teaching energy and awareness. That's right. We're going dipping in all of those words today. So welcome, MarBeth. It is an honor to have you here.
Well, I'm really so honored to be here, Miss Liz.
So, MarBeth, I want to get into it because when we first met, I pronounced your name wrong. So when I was on your show, for all the viewers out there, I would like you to share a little bit on who MarBeth was as a little girl and who you are now as a grown woman.
Oh, who I was as a little girl. I think I was pretty lost as a little girl. I think you can relate to that. just trying to get a handle on things. And I had kind of a very difficult early childhood. So it basically enabled me or guided me into being an empath, where I'm very sensitive to other people's energy. And I've learned how to protect myself from that, because it could be very challenging before for me to go to parties or events, because I could be overwhelmed by other people's energy. And I've learned how to manage it. And it also really created a sense of wanting more peace and to extend that peace to others. And I've become very passionate about world peace, because we really want our world to move into some very positive directions.
And I really like this, because this is the reason why I asked this question, is who we were as children. Because as we get adults, what we didn't have as a child in our childhood, we often bring to our adult lives. And like you said, when you were growing up, you had the trouble and you had that big heart, right? And I guess back in the day, I'm not going to say how many years back in, but we were always told, toughen up, be brave, stop being oversensitive. If we were oversensitive, we were looked on as the weak child, right? Like the weak,
Mhm.
the weak piece in the puzzle. And I look at it as us as a strong piece that was in a puzzle that didn't know how to function with softness. So we,
Yeah, I think that vulnerability is a strength.
right?
Yeah. But I didn't really, my family and my early childhood was with an abusive father until I was around 3. But after that, I was with, my mom and her family, and they were very, lovely people. But I still had this earlier experience of trauma. And it was, but my mom's family, we didn't really know how to connect with our emotions, to really connect to, there's that holistic body mind connection that we need. And I learned to develop it afterwards, but my body would come up with all kinds of interesting symptoms or indicators, that something was wrong. And I didn't realize that it was trying to communicate with me. I thought there was something wrong with me.
So, Margaret, let's get into those little indicators, those little signs, intuitions. Let's get into that a little bit, because that's part of your T, right? Is the transformational in energy, the activation. As a little girl, you knew it was within you because you had all of these senses, right? You were super picking up on different energies and that. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, actually, I've developed, a really good intuition, but it's really taken me many years to accept it, because I didn't understand that there was something going on. And also, being an empath, I was easily overtaken by other people's energy. And I found that in about 80% of the people that I work with, that they are carrying other people's energies. So it's kind of interesting, just ask yourself, is this mine or is this someone else's? Because, very often it's not your own that you're feeling. And, that was really something very interesting I learned when I was becoming a Reiki master. If I had the experience, one of my Reiki friends had a job at a spa, and she asked me to cover for her. And so I went to the spa and I met everybody. They were so nice and so friendly. And the massage therapist hugged me. And the very next day I woke up and I had a headache, and it felt very not mine. So
I don't want this headache.
Well, and for the first time, I just said, okay, what did I do yesterday? So I went through every step of everything that I had done. And when I got to the massage therapist, something clicked. It was like, oh, this is hers. Now, she wasn't giving it to me out of meanness or, just trying to give me a hot potato. It was totally unconscious. She just hugged me, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'll help you. And I took it on. And so once I realized it, I just imagined myself just going into me and pushing it out and just sending it up to the light, sending her love and peace. And I felt good again. So yeah, it's something that I don't know that people always realize when they are empathic, or maybe out of love, just really loving someone, they take on their energy. But yeah, that was a very interesting experience.
Well, and I think being surrounded by a lot of people in a big environment, there's a lot of energies that we pick up as empathics, right?
Oh
Is
yeah.
we get these senses, we get these smells, we get these vibrations. As we get closer to a comfort zone, we feel, oh no, we want to be with this person a little bit more than this person over here. Has that ever happened to you when you've been in a big surrounding?
Yeah, well, we're all energy. And if we just happen to be wearing physical suits right now, like body suits. In fact, if you ever saw the movie Cocoon, and did you ever see that movie with
Yeah.
these wonderful old people that discovered these pods in the pool next door to them, and the star people or energy beings that came in that belonged to the pods, they were beautiful beings of light, and they just put on these human suits to not scare anybody so they could mix with the population. They were very loving beings, and that's the way I see us. I see us as light, and that light doesn't have to be like a small, compact light, but it can expand, as big as the universe. And so that's the way I see us. But I also know that we are energy. And because there's so many people on the planet, our energy can mix with other people's energy. So it can get very complex. So I like to sometimes picture myself in an Iron Woman, like Iron Man, have an Iron Woman costume with a helmet and gloves and boots. And I just don't take anything on.
We're our own heroes, right?
Yes, superheroes.
Superheroes. I love it. I love superheroes. I want to get into the word transformational with you, Marbeth. When you hear that word, what comes to mind for you?
It's the ability to shift into, it's like alchemical. We are alchemists, so we can shift into something different, something greater, if we choose to. And it can happen instantaneously, or it can, take many years and many processes to get there. For me, it was a matter of, I always felt like there was something wrong with me when I was in college. I had this vision of myself having been steamrolled over, and I just saw myself as kind of flat as a pancake. And I was like, and then I tried to, like, pull out like taffy, try to stretch it out.
What hero is that? The rubber guy, the rubber
The
man?
rubber
Is that
guy, yeah. And
right?
like, oh man, this is going to be tough. Yeah.
Right? You're gonna pull and we're gonna sling back. Boom.
Yeah, but like over the years, I've realized that everything that's got happened to me, and all of so many things, that people that were abusive were actually my teachers. And my father, who had been so abusive, actually came to me years after he had passed, and I was in my meditation room, and someone had said, oh, your father's trying to reach out to you. So I was not happy about that because he basically abandoned me. But I figured he's reaching out from the other side. So I went into a meditation, not knowing anything could happen. And suddenly I was surrounded with the most amazing love that I had ever experienced. And it totally blew me away. I said, "What is this?" And he said, "I love you. I have always loved you. And we contracted before we were born that we would have the experiences in this lifetime." I was blown away. But I knew what he was saying was true because I could feel, I never felt love like that. And so I had tears streaming down my face and I just forgave him. And it was like I just dropped this whole bag of bricks down on the ground. I've been carrying it all my life. And it just totally changed me. Talk about transformation. That was a transformation.
And I think that's why we need to start opening up about words, right? And this is why I bring the TEA to the tables, is because we take words and we tell our stories. And you're telling your story of what you've overcome with your father. And I've never heard what you said, MarBeth, is the abusers were our teachers. When you said that, that hit like right in the heart, because that's actually what they did, was teach us.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to be like them, or do we want to be somebody different, right? Because some abusers will turn into abusers, right? Children who have been abused will become abusers as well.
Yeah.
They have that choice, right? So they're actually teaching us. They're actually giving us lessons. They're hard lessons. Do we want them? No. But I feel that we are connected before we're even born. Our parents are meant to have us instead of another couple is supposed to have us. Like the universe has already decided our destiny, whether we want to believe it or not. We're all energy, and I really want to talk about the energy, because what you do, MarBeth, like the live that you did today, actually helped a lot, because we took that moment. It was just a few minutes, but we took that moment to dig within ourselves, and we don't do that enough in today's world. And energy is so easy to use, but so ignored as well in today's society. So I want to talk about energy with you, MarBeth. What does energy do for you?
Well, we are energy. I want to show you something because this is very cool. This is energy, but the energy is coming from me when I complete the circuit. Isn't that cool?
I like that.
Yeah. And so we are energy. That's visual. Love is energy. And, I learned to become a Reiki master. That was evidently something that I needed to do. And since then, I've developed and trained in many other modalities and techniques. And energy it's the essence of who we are, but the essence of what we are is love. And that, I want to go back to the experience with my father, because I had, this vision of this person who had not wanted me, had abused me, had abandoned me, and left me feeling less than. But when I had that encounter in the meditation, I realized that the love, everything came from the love. And that love had been there for me to grow, to learn how to forgive, to learn how to really overcome any feelings of anger or hatred or any of the feelings that I had about him or myself. And that was really the forgiveness of that. And that was such a huge lesson. Coming back to the energy now, energy is, when you think of that, we are all energy. And you could actually expand that to say that we are patterns of light and information that appear to be very solid in this physical body, but we're actually so much greater because we can expand our awareness And we are aware of ourselves as energy. We are aware of ourselves as body. And the energy part is so cool because we can direct it anywhere. And that's the basis of our 10 million for world peace meditation, because we can direct our energy, we can coalesce that energy with other people on our meditation, and we can focus it where we want it to be in a unified field of consciousness. That's energy. That's love. That's amazing, powerful beings that we are, that we can direct our consciousness, our focus. And in 2018, I woke up one morning and I got the incentive, shall we say, you're going to do, or direction, you're going to have a world peace experiment in 2 weeks. And I was like, what? 2 weeks? Can't you give me any longer? And no, you're going to do it in 2 weeks. And I was like, seriously? How am I going to do this in 2 weeks? I had never done any Facebook Live, ever. I had a conference line, and so I started to gather people together. I had a virtual assistant who helped me, which was amazing because I couldn't have done it myself, and got the word out. And a lot of people showed up. So many people that I crashed the conference line. Wow, what do I do? So I had to do my very first Facebook Live. And my goal was to focus on the Middle East because I felt that there were enough organizations that would gather data that could verify if anything was happening, because I just wanted to see what's going to happen here. So I found this online database, the ACLED, and actually we've used it for our 10 million for world peace. And it seems like, yes, there are horrible wars going on now. Yes, there are. And in 2018, we focused on the Middle East because it was like, well, let's see what happens. And they had these wonderful charts, weekly charts of what was happening, in the Middle East. Like you could dial it into wherever you wanted it to be. And so for 6 months, well, for 1 month, I did it every day over Facebook Live. And we had quite a few people. We had people in Japan and Europe and all over the US and Canada. It was like, wow, all these people. And it was really amazing. And after a month, I really wanted to continue. So I brought in other people to lead meditations. And then I interviewed them because I wanted people to see who these amazing people were. So after 6 months, our data showed that the level of violence had dropped over 20%. I think it was closer to like 25%, but I couldn't quite believe it. That it was pretty powerful. And it's based on a similar work that Lynn McTaggart has done, and also the TM people have done with Dr. John, I can't think of his last name there, but it will come to me. They had done experiments in Washington, D.C., and several people that have been involved in our 10 million for world peace were in these experiments, but they went there in person. And they did transcendental meditation for hours every day. And the level of violence dropped over 20%. And they went to Israel when they were trying to have a peace treaty with Egypt, and it had fallen through. They went there for a couple of months. And lo and behold, the treaty was signed between Egypt and Israel. And pretty powerful stuff. So this stuff works, and it's because of energy. And energy can be used for healing the physical body, and it can be used in so many ways. It's really exciting. It's like the next frontier.
We're really going to have some superheroes in this story. You're talking about the Rubber Man, the Iron Man, the superheroes of energy. When you watch these movies of superheroes as well, you see the energy and you see the battles that they fight, and that's us as human beings as well. We put these swords on, we put these shields on, We guard ourselves, we protect ourselves. That's what a superhero is doing as well. So when I'm listening to you, I see all these superheroes coming in front of me saying, "You got this." We
You
had
got
a, we had a question that came in as you were sharing about transformational, and they want to know, when you think of transformation, do you think it as a travel through the energies?
I hadn't really thought about it that way, but I can definitely see that. Absolutely. Because energy can shift in a heartbeat, just by you can be feeling in a negative place and maybe feeling sad, feeling grief, and we'll talk about this in a little bit more, but you can suddenly, by getting up and dancing or listening to music, or just focusing on something or some things that you're grateful for, sending love to someone else or doing something for someone else, suddenly your energy has transformed and you're feeling really good. And that can happen very quickly.
Yeah, when the question came in, I had to think about it myself, because we all time travel. We all have a past, a present, and a future, and this is what tea is all about, right? Is we all have that story to tell. We all have our own journeys. I have a question for you, Marbeth. If people started looking at us as energy instead of individuals, as the outer skin levels, do you think that we would have world peace?
I actually do. I think that if people could recognize that there is a greater self with a capital S as to who we really are, that's the truth of who we are, which is love, that yes, we would totally have peace on earth.
I think we focus so much on the outer shell of someone that we forget what's inside that person.
I was reading today that our body is actually a fence that we surround a very small part of ourself with, and then we focus on its mortality, and we don't recognize that we are actually immortal beings. We are eternal beings, and we're created in the image of Source, our creator, which is not some old man sitting up in the sky on a throne, but but we're created in that image. We are powerful. We are powerful beings, but we close ourselves into this puny little body, and we think, well, that's who I am, and I've got to protect it.
Well, we put that shield on, right? And we forget the power that we have within ourselves,
Absolutely.
because we all have that magic within us. So many of us listen to society and programs and systems that we actually lose who we are as individuals, and we lose our energy, and our energy starts to drain, and it starts to release in different ways, through addictions, through abuse, through isolation, through mental illness. These are all different things that start to form because we start losing the power within ourselves, and we give it to outside sources.
Absolutely. And I also want to talk a little bit about our bodies, because you talk about body, mind, spirit. It's a holistic vision of who we are. And what happened with me, and happens with many of the people that I've worked with, is that we disconnect our mind from our body. So sometimes we even just leave the body and we're just not even aware of what we're feeling. We have no idea. So the body tries to get our attention. It really tries to, like, hey, hey, hey,
I'm over here.
over here. Remember, you lost somebody and it's too hard for you to really feel that emotion, but it's right here in your chest. You can feel it. It feels really heavy and it hurts. And maybe you're going to come down with bronchitis just to get your attention, like, hey, you need to deal with this. Or, maybe we hold a lot of emotions in our throat, a lot of things that we want to express, but maybe we don't. Maybe, and we're not even aware of it. So we get a sore throat. I used to get laryngitis a lot. And, it was like so interesting because I would feel intimidated to say what I really wanted to say. So my vocal cords would just shut down. So I didn't get it. It's just really interesting. Or you might feel like this tightness in your solar plexus, and and that's where we hold our will. That's our power center. But maybe we've let other people run over us energetically, and so that's there, and it's somehow connected to here. Or maybe we're not feeling safe, and so we have female issues, because it goes down to that root chakra, which is a place of safety. But our bodies are always talking to us, and we can tell. It's really important to learn how to connect with the body's messaging if you haven't been hearing it all along. And there are ways that we can do that. I'm actually writing a book about it right now. So on somatic healing, yeah.
Well, that's going to be a goodie to check out, like for the viewers and listeners out there. Like, I love that you're working on a book, MarBeth, because I think we need more books out there about energy and the connection and disconnection. Because once we start understanding why our body acts the way it does, why we get these certain illnesses and disorders, is because we're not listening to our body. We're disconnecting our body, right?
Mm-hmm.
As you were speaking and you talked about the heaviness, I could feel the heaviness in my chest as you were speaking. Because as we spoke before we went live, we talked about grief, and it's a heavy thing, and it is in the chest, it's in the heart, it's in the heart section of our bodies, right? So the heaviness will be in the chest.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about, I might get emotional, and I want to talk about grief and why it affects our bodies so much.
Oh, yeah. Well, I feel that our bodies really love us so much. And it's letting us know that we have to heal. We have to heal from these particular intense emotions that we're feeling. But the body has ways to help us to heal. And there's so many ways that we have to choose, is this the time for me to want to do this? Because it might not be. Maybe we need to feel the grief a little longer. Maybe it's not the right time for me to heal it, but it's there as a reminder. And the grief, it could be about losing someone, but it could also be about losing your personal power, or it could be about losing your youth. Or, there's so many things that the body could be trying to tell us that we're not listening to. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
It's
because
there to love us.
MarBeth, grief is not just a lost one, right? It's not just losing people. It's losing our identity. It's losing our power. It's
Yes.
losing, a livelihood. There's so much that we don't talk about for grief. As soon as we hear the word grief, oh, it's somebody who passed away.
Losing your country. Maybe you were
losing your freedom,
losing your freedom.
losing your home.
Yes.
There's so much grief that we don't talk about in today's world.
Your
It's
job.
just right. And grief is part of the energy as well. We have to, and the word that you gave me was activation. And I like that word activation because we need to activate ourselves. We need to understand why our bodies do what they do, right? So when you gave me that word activation, what were you thinking?
Well, I think that, there's so many things that we can do to activate the release of these emotions in a very positive way. I had studied emotional freedom technique and emotion code, and And maybe 10 years ago, I was on the phone with basic call with someone in Germany, and I was just, this was just, just a preliminary call to see, did we want to connect with each other, and all of a sudden, I felt this heavy pain in my chest. It was like, okay, he's feeling grief. So I wrote it down. This is an indicator he's feeling grief. That indicator disappeared. And then all of a sudden, I'm feeling a stabbing pain in my back. Oh, he feels betrayed, because I was knowing exactly what was going on there. So I wrote down betrayal. And then I got the tightening in my solar plexus. And I was like, okay, he's got some difficult relationships going on and not really feeling in his own power. So I went down like this whole list of things with him. And then all the indicators disappeared. And, and he's in Germany and I'm in Florida. And, and this was the first time this happened. And so I said to his body, not out loud, I said, how do you want me to proceed here? And his body just told me. So I did it, and, it's just sent particular energy. And all of a sudden I just felt everything go click, 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 click. And it was like, whoa, what just happened? So basically this system just presented itself to me to help someone else heal. Now, of course, there are a lot of ways you can do it on your own. And I have studied a lot of those, because I wanted to heal on my own. I had a lot of things I needed to work on. And I think you'll find that with most people who work with energy, we do that because we needed to. And there wasn't really an option. But it was like, wow, I felt like, I was like suddenly a computer that could receive information and sort it out so that it could help other people. And that was really cool. But definitely, if you're feeling that grief, you can just, one of the things I've noticed is that when we experience a loss, it's generally not the first time that we've experienced a loss. And what happens is it very often triggers a memory of previous losses. It could go back to when you were 5 and your teacher embarrassed you in class. And you suddenly you lost your self-respect. Or it could be that, when your puppy died, when you were 7. So those losses accumulate. And when we experience a new one, it just, all that cumulative stuff, that's the technical term, can come up and grab you. So, I think it's really important. The emotional freedom technique is great. That's that meridian tapping. You can tap on the side of your hand. And that's a really great way to move through things. Or the emotion code is very good also, where you can that releases one occurrence at a time. But I think,
is it just moving your hand over you?
And it's using the same meridians that the emotional freedom technique uses. This is Bradley Nelson. And you just rub your hand over the top of your head while you're feeling that emotion. And that will help you release it. You do it like several times, but that just releases a particular incident. It doesn't, it can be like a recurring experience for that. I find that very often, maybe there's some very early childhood stuff going on. And in that case, you want to really feel the feeling, but, you just imagine yourself really loving on yourself as a child and just extending that love to that little girl or little boy that was feeling that. And you can actually feel that happening or lightening up in your body while you do that. So there are lots of ways to release the emotion.
So MarBeth, how old were you when you got into the energy healing?
It was about 20 years ago. maybe a little, yeah, it was about 20 years ago. In 2004, I was leaving my marriage, and I had a vision of myself in the crystal vision store near my house. And I didn't know why I needed to go there, but I needed to go there, and they had a Reiki circle. So I went to the Reiki circle, and everything kind of happened from there.
See, the universe just puts us in spots that sometimes you're like, what? I need to go here? Why?
But I always listen to it. Whenever I get that nudge, I never don't do it. I always do it because, so, and really some of these urges or these nudges are so weird. Like, really? What?
Right? It's one of those moments where, like, you want me to do that? But
Yeah.
what? How? It's like you had 2 weeks to put this together, right? You
Yeah.
had no longer, you had 2 weeks to do it, and you had to do it. And, that's just how it works with the universe. It just puts you in this path that sometimes we don't even understand why we're being put there, or
Exactly.
why we're connected to a certain person and not connected to the next person, right? Because some people will say, well, let me connect you with this person. And you're like, no. Have you ever had that experience?
Yeah. Where you're just really pulled to connect with someone,
Yeah.
and you don't know why.
Yeah.
And maybe you'll find out. Maybe you won't. But
Right?
I've had really crazy things happen. Like one time I know I was doing yoga, and I'm a Kundalini yoga instructor. And I was doing yoga one day, and all of a sudden I felt this person nearby, and I knew that it was a former student of my fiance's. And I'm like, huh. I wasn't connected with her on Facebook, but I reached out to her, and there was something that she needed from me. I didn't know why. She didn't know why, but it was just like, oh, that's why you needed this particular healing. It's
Yeah.
like, okay. So things happen, and I always listen to it.
Right? Listen to the intuition, because the intuition is guiding. It might be scary at times, but listen to the intuition. Uh, MarBeth, I want to get into the experience, the World Miracle Peace Experiment. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how people can get involved in that as well?
Well, that was the one in 2018. That was the
Okay.
award-winning World Miracle Peace Experiment. Now we have 10 million for world peace. And the 10 million for world peace is a 501c3 nonprofit. And you can check it out at 10millionforworldpeace.org. I formed it with Terry Angel, who has been on your show. And
Amazing soul.
she is amazing, and co-directors. We have another director, and we lead daily meditations for world peace, just 7 minutes long. So can you give 7 minutes for world peace? And we're live over Facebook and YouTube, because we have a Facebook page, 10 million for world peace. It's spelled out TEN. All the words are spelled out so that you can find us. So we do that every day at 1:11 p.m. Eastern. And we go into that field of love and peace and miracles, otherwise known as the unified field of consciousness, so that we can direct our attention on world peace, but our direction is also focused. Our attention is focused on the world leaders. So it's a different focus than we did in 2018 when it was on the Middle East. But we are focusing on world leaders, and we are seeing that peace. I feel like, when a seed has to germinate in the soil, it can take a very long time before you see those first little sprouts come up. But we are focusing on the peace, and I know that we have planted the seeds. And we actually went to the ACLED again and back in October, because we launched our organization. We launched our meditations September 1st, and World Peace Day was September 21st. So a lot of other peace organizations were doing meditations. There was a lot of focus on world peace at that time, building up to the 21st. And we didn't have that many people on our live streams, but we were dedicated. Every day we were there, 7 minutes a day. And I went back to the ACLED, and I went back from August 1st, when we were not doing any meditations, to September 21st. The level of violence against civilians had dropped 38%.
Wow.
8%. I mean, that's crazy, right? And the overall world peace had dropped like 25%. And I'm thinking, wow, everybody is focusing on world peace, meditating for world peace. So, I mean, I would love to see all of the wars on the planet end, and just everybody focused on peace. I totally believe it's possible.
And 7 minutes, you can take 7 minutes. It takes 7 minutes to make a breakfast and make a toast with some peanut butter. 7 minutes, guys, and we can actually bring peace to the world. We can actually make a difference. We can start impacting lives by bringing good content and good connection to the world. We're so divided that we need to bring that connection back together. We need to bring the energies together. We need to start bringing the dots and alignment together again. And like I said, MarBeth, when I joined your live today, you connected me back to a spot where I needed to be connected, because I was losing the power within myself. Can I do today's show? Can I move forward? And I jumped on the live for a reason, to see if that's what I needed. And the universe, divine universe, brought me to you at that moment to hear that message. And as you spoke of the butterfly, I thought of my girlfriend who passed, and I knew that I was in the right spot at the right time. And we were able to make this difference, and we were able to connect. And this is why we do tea times. We connect people, we join people through storytelling, through businesses, through organizations, through missions. The universe is connecting me in a way that is connecting MarBeth with just 7 minutes. I'm doing it in 1 hour. She's doing it in 7 minutes. But we're doing the same thing in a different way. But we're aligning and we're connecting. And I really want to thank everybody who tunes in and supports these tea times, and my guests. Support their mission, support what they're doing, and go out and make that difference. You want to see change, be the change. And that's what MarBeth is doing. That's what Terry Angel is doing. That's what Miss Liz is doing. That's what all of my guests are doing. We're showing people that we want the difference, so we become the difference. And Andrea, thank you so much. I really appreciate you tuning in and supporting. I want to get into, MarBeth, you talked about the butterfly in your live today.
Oh, yeah.
I want to talk about that butterfly. I know we're going off topic. We're not staying on tea. We're going to the butterfly, guys, because I just feel the universe is telling me talk about the butterfly. Maybe it's my girlfriend that's saying we need to talk about the butterfly. But let's talk about that butterfly and what you did today.
Well, I love butterflies. I have raised monarch butterflies, from gathering up the little eggs and, and then watching them grow into their big caterpillars and go into their chrysalis and then emerge. The butterfly is such an amazing symbol of transformation. There we go again. And, but it's also, it's like the soul of the butterfly, of the caterpillar, that, you're just actually experiencing the soul of the caterpillar. He's gone through this complete metamorphosis and is just so free. I can't be around butterflies without getting goosebumps, because I just feel their energy is just so amazing. And, they're just such gorgeous creatures, and they are so symbolic of love and and transformation, really. And I just
I
felt
know,
I needed to bring a butterfly today.
and I know why we're doing the butterfly, because MarBeth, I asked you to give me one word to describe yourself as a person, and you gave me the word love. You just talked about the love in the butterfly. So, what does love mean to you, and why did you pick that word to describe yourself?
I think it's the essence of what everyone is. At the very essence of who we are, and most people wouldn't even recognize it. They wouldn't know it. They may be caught up in other, personal or personality issues, but at the very core of who we are, that essence, that energetic essence, I feel that love created us loving. Not the physical body that's in that little fence, but the greater self of us is love. And we can connect that love in other people and see that love in other people. And so that they can transform into that. And they may not even understand why you're seeing that in them, but they respond to it and they become more loving because of it. So I just feel that's who we are.
See, and I see how the dots are connecting today with our T's. With your double T's, I know why you sent me those three words just before we went live, was teaching energy awareness, because that's what we're doing right now, is we're teaching that energy awareness. Those three words really needed to be put in. We needed that double cup of tea. Sometimes one cup of tea is not enough. Sometimes we need the second one.
Absolutely.
So uh it's amazing how words connect us together, and how we transform through the energies, because we activate ourselves, we push ourselves through the emotions. We talked about all of this today, MarBeth, the emotions, the grief, you know um, forgiveness, the love. But I want to, we're almost at the end here. I want to get into the colors, because colors are important as well, just as important as energies. And I ask all my guests this, what their favorite color is, and you gave me the color purple. So I'm interested to know why the color purple.
I've always loved purple. Um, it, it it actually it's like a very high color of energy. The energy. There's different colors. Different spectrums, I guess. That everyone has a different vibration. And purple or violet. Violet is like the highest vibration. Purple would be more like intuition, but it's always really called me. It always felt like that color of Reiki where I started out in energy. And I just also wanted to say that we have on every month, we have an energy healing circle. Terry Kumari, who's our third director, and I are all energy masters. And so we have, for our 10 million for world peace, in order to give back to everyone who's been donating to us, we do a healing circle every month. And our next one is a week from Saturday on April 6th. So we'll be focusing on the third eye, I think.
And is the third eye not purple?
It's an indigo, which is kind of like it is kind of like a purpley blue.
You see, and this is what I mean by colors, energies. Everything connects, everything aligns when we start understanding the purpose of what we're doing in life, our whys. Terry, you found your why 20 years ago when you had to walk into a store, and then you were told 2 weeks. You got 2 weeks to do this. You know, and you talked about the headache of somebody else. The energies that we connect and we grab sometimes are not our own energies. So we need to stop being so hard on ourselves. There's so many messages in today's tea time that I could just pull out from a cookie jar and say, we got forgiveness here, we got grief here, we got activation here, we got transformation here. But as you were sharing earlier about the person that you healed, and you said their pain in their back, you were writing words down, and it goes back to the words. You were saying betrayal, heartbreak, grief.
The words are just symbols of symbols. I could actually feel what was happening in his body, and then I was able to interpret it. And that's what happened is not something that normally happens, but it was like the birth of a new way of my healing people. So that was pretty cool.
And again, that's everything aligning together, right? It's like that butterfly, it's the cocoon, the caterpillar, and then the wings,
Yes.
and that's what tea is. It's the transformation of the past, the present, and the future. The butterfly had to be this caterpillar, then the cocoon, and or is it the cocoon and then the caterpillar and then the butterfly?
Let's put caterpillar first. It
It's a
started out
caterpillar
with
first.
a tiny egg. I was out in the garden this morning, and I noticed the milkweed had little nibbles out of the leaves. So I looked under the leaves, and there was a caterpillar about this big. It was so cute, little black and yellow and white, and a little monarch. And because they love milkweed, that's their drug of choice. That's the only food they will eat. And then all these little tiny white eggs under the leaves.
That's what, yes. So I always get them backwards. I think it's my dyslexia. I see things backwards. I see the E before the A or the U before the E, or and I think it's because I'm bilingual as well. So I got two different languages that are trying to mix together at times as well. So I want, if anybody would like to know about more on the mission that you and Terry are doing, how can they find out about it? And I know that you have sponsors and supporters and volunteers and all of that stuff. If you'd like to share a little bit about that before we wrap up.
Oh, I would love if you would like to volunteer with us, or would you like to sponsor us, or would you like to even just donate to what we're doing, because we have expenses. We have email to send out, we have VAs, we have editors for our podcast. We have lots of things going on, and we basically are volunteers, and we don't take any pay. But anything that you can donate would be so helpful. And so it's 10 million for worldpeace.org. You can go to donate. You can check out our energy healing circle, tab to register for our healing circle. And we would love to have you just join us. Join us at 1:11 p.m. Eastern. Come a few minutes early so that you're there. You make sure that you can find us. We're on Facebook and YouTube. So, and we have a podcast, Imagine Peace. And Miss Liz has been on our podcast. She was an amazing guest.
It was truly a beautiful experience because I got to sit with you and Terry both.
Mm-hmm.
And I love sitting with my tea time guests and seeing their tables because, it's nice that people come to my table, but I like going to other people's tables because we serve differently, right? We bring something different. And it's okay to go to a different table and say, hey, what are you serving? So I really enjoyed being on your platform and on your podcast. So everybody check that out. So what is your final message for everybody today, MarBeth?
Well, remember who you are, that you are love, that you are peace, that you are spirit, that you are energy. and you can choose to be peaceful. You can choose to be loving. You can just set your intention like, I am love. I am peace. Just do it and see what happens.
MarBeth, I want you to hold your energy thing up. And I just want everyone who's listening to just listen to the sound. Thank you. And that's how we connect.
Is that I am touching both terminals of an energy device, and it lights up and makes a noise when I connect both my hands to the device. For those of us who are audio today and not visual.
Well, thank you so much for that. And I really had a pleasure having you here, MarBeth. And let's stay connected and let's see how we can bring world peace by taking 7 minutes a day and just taking that moment to meditate and bring peace to the world, bring peace to your home, to your businesses, to your families and communities. And thank you again so much for joining me today on Tea Time. And we will be back at 7 p.m. with a second Tea Time with a returning guest, Donna Conrad. And we're going to be talking about the universe and women and the history of women and all of that stuff. So today's going to be a very inspirational day of women and power and universe and energies. And we're going to talk about the universe because me and Donna, we got into a really good conversation the last time we were together. So we're going to bring the second cup of her tea, but she's also bringing a special different tea. She's bringing a triple tea today. So we got doubles, we got triples. So maybe you're going to a Tim Hortons or a Starbucks and you're adding that extra sweetener and cream to your tea today. So until then, I will see everybody at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And again, thank you all for joining. Andrea, thank you so much. Bruce, thank you for tuning in. Thank you to all the viewers on Instagram who are tuning in. I really appreciate all of you guys. I couldn't do this without you guys. And we'll see each other at 7 p.m. with a second TEA with Donna Conrad.